welcome to another edition of the Bob Jeswald Show. And Joanne Kogel right next to me as well here today. We got a great guest. But before we get into that, I'm just laughing. It's just every time Joanne starts, she doesn't like our music open. Okay, let's just cut to the chase. It's okay.
I bet the people would vote with me.
Yes, and she said, Bob, it feels like this, we're back to the 1940s. Would you say we're looking at the smoke at a bar and I'm trying to find myself?
Yeah, we're seeing like band. Just get me my gin and tonic as I sit around the little red table.
Oh, my gosh. Well, speaking of red, we got a wonderful Ginger in the house. She's a wonderful lady, beautiful. I haven't met her just minutes ago, but she's going to be great because I've heard a lot about her. She's got a great publicist, by the way. And we're talking about methods for overcoming obstacles, Joanne, and learning how to not only survive, but thrive in life. That's the title of her book. Coming up next, you're going to find all about these questions and answers and much more right here on the Bob Jeswald Show.
Personal power. People positive, the community of connection. This is the Bob Jeswald Show.
Oh, we are going to have a great episode here. When you hear authors write books and stuff like that, the titles grab you, and there's always some great information because it takes a lot of work to put together. When you put a book together, it's a lot of research, a lot of time spent. And my next guest is Laura Berg. Laura, how are you? You're right here with Bob and Joanne today in the Bob Jeswald Show. Where are you? Yeah, there you are. I said Ginger. Is that okay? That's a compliment. I'm just paying you a compliment. I see you through there. You look like an actress. You're smiling. We can see you pop, and you look great. Maybe that'll be a next career for you too, as an author.
I get called it all the time. It's all good.
Okay, great. Hey, is it fair to say, how some people say, I'm from, I lived out west for a while, and Joanne can attest to this because she's done a lot of triathlons in different places. But people say Nevada. I lived in Nevada. I lived in Las Vegas for a long time.
Nevada?
In Nevada. It's Nevada. When people say that, or Oregon, it's Oregon. Illinois, no, it's Illinois. First of all, that's just grammatically wrong. And then, but is Boca Raton, do you like to say, or Boca Raton, Florida?
I'm actually in Toronto.
Oh, you're in Canada right now. Okay, I didn't know. So when I said it was
Lindsay's from Boca Raton.
So I messed that up. I'm sorry. Lindsay Mack is down there, your publicist. I totally see. Look, that's great.
It's even better.
This is even better. Now, go ahead. I'm going to let Joanne take over. This is even, Laura, you're going to love this. Go ahead, Joanne, because I know what she's going to say.
I grew up in London.
Yeah.
Ontario.
And I grew up in Buffalo. I spent times in Mississauga, watched Vic Cummings on Channel 11, CHCH TV 11, south of Toronto, on the Queenie all the time. Yonge Street, hung out there many times. And that's the neck of my woods. Big hockey player. Joanne grew up there, as we just said, in London, Ontario. And by golly, we got a connection here. This is even better yet.
Well, there you go. My husband teaches in London, actually.
It's not England. Just anyway, even though it looks like England in your window there, it's actually London, Ontario.
Yeah, that's right.
That's great. Well, we're gonna get to you right now. Then, so now that we've got that established, it's fantastic. This is good. It's gonna make it even better. Laura, first, I think it's most important. Everyone wants to know when you have obstacles in life, and Joanne and I talk about this a lot, whether it's fitness and health, whatever it may be. Everybody has an obstacle in life. That's a great idea, great concept. And learning how not to only survive, but how do you thrive through that? Some people have their faith. They use that a lot. They meditate, yoga, or whatever it may be. What inspired you to do this book? And tell us the exact title of your book then, too.
It's Thriving Life, How to Live Your Best Life No Matter the Cards You're Dealt. And I came up with the title because before I wrote the book, I just felt like I was surviving life. I was just going through day in, day out, not feeling very satisfied or content, but not thriving. And I just wanted to thrive. And so that's where I came up with the book, because thriving doesn't mean that you have to constantly be having joy in your life and full of ecstasy all the time. It just means that you're not exhausted by simply going through the motions of life.
I can relate to that. I mean, even we say, would it be fair to say people too, they have like that, what is it called when you're a guy, especially happens to men when you hit their 40s, is it? And they feel like they're going into their second, what was that called? And they got to get a midlife crisis. That's the word I'm looking for. Is this what we're talking about, or not? Sort of.
Well, not quite, but yes. I mean, people could have a midlife crisis and then feel that way, but I think you can feel this just barely surviving at any point in your life.
Especially with COVID. I mean, this couldn't come out at a better time. I'm assuming, did this book, was it inspired before COVID, the pandemic, or during?
It was, because it takes a long time to write a book. So once you go through the process of getting a book deal, and then you have to sit down and write it. So yeah, this came out long before COVID, but it's kind of good timing because a lot of the stuff I talk about in my book, probably people are going through it more now than ever before.
Yeah, I can see that. Joanne, Toronto, and this is, I'm not picking because we're all from this area here. Are you a Jays fan, first of all?
Sure. I'm not a huge sports fan in general, but yeah.
I love the Jays, but it makes me depressed when every time you see them so close. You know what I'm saying? It's like the Buffalo teams too. It's like, come on, will you win something? You get what I'm saying. Joe, were you a Maple Leafs fan or any fan up there?
I was a Blue Jay fan.
Okay.
1997
Raptors,
and
basketball?
1998.
Oh, okay.
World champion.
Do you know what's crazy?
World Series
Do you want another connection here, guys? And I'm not digressing. This is so crazy because you said the whole I can't believe I missed that, Laura, because I just want to say this because we're going to get back to that. But here's a guy that's coming here at 4:15 today. He's a friend of mine from Toronto. Honestly, this is a God's honest truth. His name's Greg McFarland, and hopefully he'll listen to this podcast afterwards. We met in Las Vegas. He left Canada because he just felt, and he got a Statue of Liberty tattooed on the back of his back because he was just sick of the grind. And I'm not picking at Canada because we're all from that area, and I love Canada. It's a great country, but he just thought this, just the way the government was run, the socialism, he calls it socialism, it's not, but socialist kind of, social medicine and all that. He had to keep going over the border to get things done. I'm not saying this is what he said. He just got sick of that and the repetitiveness, and he so went to the opposite. He did like a 180, like a total antithesis Canada. I don't want Canada. I want to become an American citizen. Went to the extreme. Like, dude, I used to go over the border from Niagara Falls all the time, Rainbow Bridge, wherever I would go, and it's so clean. You go to Canada, there's a huge contrast. I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, how could you not? But I'm wondering if he went through that cycle of where we live regionally or something, and maybe sometimes the weather gets to you. You get cabin fever or whatever it may be. Sometimes we say that. Laura Berg's book, would that kind of pull that out of us a little bit?
I would hope so. Yeah. If I mean,
tell me how. Tell us how. Give us some examples in that book or something that somebody who's going through these obstacles. I know Joanne, you don't. And I never even know from Joanne. I've known her for years. What are your obstacles? And Laura's going to tell us how to get out of them. How's that?
Oh.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, you sure did.
I'll share some too, but I want to hear.
My obstacles. I'm going to have to think about that.
Okay, you think about it, and I'm going to tell you. My obstacle is that when I went from one job to the next, Laura, to another job, I carried the same things with me, such as I you think it's the people you work with, but I start looking in the mirror and thinking, oh my God, it's me. And I had some good mentors to tell me along the way. Bob, I can guarantee, I don't even know what you did 2 other jobs ago, but I could guarantee you had that same exact problem 2 jobs ago because I keep bringing it on and on and on. Laura Berg's, how are we going to thrive here? What can you do to help me with that?
Well, it's interesting that you say that because you're clearly identifying what the problem is, and that's the main thing that you have to do. Is a lot of us feel unhappy, or we feel like we repeat the same errors over and over again, and yet we don't sort of stop to look at what we're doing in our lives that are creating these issues, because we just keep going through the same thing over and over again. So I talk a lot about cognitive behavioral therapy in my book, so CBT. And what that is when I was first introduced to the concept years ago, I had a therapist, and I just thought, this is such nonsense, like mindfulness and CBT, where you have to sit with your thoughts and really analyze. I'm like, I know what I'm feeling. And, of course I be mindful of what I'm feeling. I know what I'm feeling. I'm going through it, but it's really a case of acknowledging what is maybe making you feel the way that you're feeling. And a lot of us do it around emotions. So this thing made me feel this way, and those feelings are reality. But maybe the thing that made you feel that way is not reality is just your perception of what is going on, which is making you feel bad. So I'll give you an example. This is just a really easy one where, you're walking down the street, you run into a friend, and a friend kind of dismisses you and leaves quickly, and you think, oh no, she hates me. What did I do? I'm the worst person. And then you start feeling bad, and you're kind of feeling blue that day, but you don't identify why you're feeling blue. You just start feeling blue, and then you're short with your spouse or your kids or at work, whatever, because you haven't stopped to realize, okay, I had this encounter, and this encounter made me feel this way. And so in your head, the thought process behind that encounter is that she doesn't like me. But that's not actually what happened. What happened is maybe she was running late for work and she had to go. So it's really about sitting with what is going on and identifying your feelings around that thing, and then, making that change based on, I want to feel better.
That, and how many times we do that. And now, Joanne, do you get I just don't, Joanne, look, could you sort of analyze Joanne right now? Oh, I love your cat, by the way. You got a cream tabby?
He's always on the screen.
Oh, that's our cats too. I have two of them. I got a gray tabby and a cream tabby, and they like, the cream tabbies like to jump and go up. But Joanne, you do hold your, I'm telling you, I've known you for years now. And the thing that amazes me about Joanne, I'm picking on Joanne, but I'm going to use Joanne as an example.
Not many other
Crap could be hitting the fan. The worst things could happen. Seriously, like the worst things can happen. And her temperament only goes up a notch more and more. She hardly even, and so you don't know sometimes, like, Joanne, are you okay? Or is everything, you know what I mean? I get this thing like, should you go up to that person? Is it healthy to do that? Or is it just because the perception is Joanne's like that? Is she just not emotional in that area, or is she, or she just internalizes that's her and don't read too much into it, kind of thing?
Yeah, that's it. You might be feeling that she should be reacting a certain way because of how you would react to that situation. So then you put it on her when she might not have even given two thoughts to something.
Really, you should just...
I know. Sorry.
It doesn't look like much bothers her, so...
Really, Bob, you should just worry about yourself.
See? That's so maybe,
and worry less about other people.
So I need the CBT.
You obviously did not read chapter 1 of this book.
I did, no, but I need the CBT. But
I did.
She did, and she does not need
and the
CBT.
Introduction this morning at breakfast.
Yes, exactly. That's good. Good for you. Good for you. Well, get into, tell us what do you think with this? Where do you see in the business that you're into, and especially with all the folks, you have so many volunteers, you have so many people, things that you do, and you seem to always get past it. You went through a heck of a time with COVID. Your gyms were at stake, and then and Laura touches on this, but you always kept a good common theme. She's probably one of the healthiest people we can talk to on this level. But
Well, I think ultimately, you're in control. I think I said that in the last podcast too.
Yeah.
Is that you're in control of your future. To an extent. You can't control if you get cancer or whatever, but you can control your attitude, and you can control how you deal with it, and you can control how you react to it. And I just choose to control it in a much more controlling way than somebody who is a little more reactive. So,
but do you think she still has anything, Laura? Is there anything there? We all have something, though, don't we? Or some people just don't care to share.
No, I do. I handle the situation and the way it needs to be handled, and it sometimes doesn't need reaction. Sometimes it does. And when I do react, then it's very powerful and meaningful and memorable.
Oh, okay. I can see that. But Laura, you sit here too. You're you and Joanne very similar, maybe because I'm from Buffalo, but you guys are Canadian, so it must be a Canadian thing.
Trait.
It's a Canadian trait, I guess. Yeah, but what is this? What came about in your? If I don't want to get too personal, what you feel comfortable with? What was it that made Laura Berg say, I got to do this. I got to write this. I got to talk about this.
I'm a huge open book in my book because I decided that. Well, okay, the catalyst behind the book came when I posted a video on YouTube of my experience being rejected by my birth parents. So I'm adopted.
Okay.
And I found my birth parents. I found out they had married each other after having me, and they still rejected me. They said, I don't want anything to do with you. So that killed me because I felt, I always felt growing up that I was giveawayable somehow, that somebody could give me away. I wasn't wanted enough. And of course, that wasn't the case. They were teenagers and they did for me what they thought was best and all of that stuff. But you still, thought and feeling are two different things. And so I posted this video just of my experience, because I thought there are other people out there who have had to have gone through the same thing I did, but I don't know anybody in my circle of friends in my small world. And I posted it, and the response I got was insane. It has over 700,000 views, this one video.
Wow.
Of people sharing their, in the comments, you read the comments, it's beautiful, because people are saying, thank you so much for sharing, because I felt like it was just me. I went through the same rejection and I can't believe it. And I felt it must be me. But hearing that it was you also means that it's not necessarily a personal problem that's me. It's maybe a biological parent emotion issue or what have you. And so I realized the impact that you can have by sharing your story and your experience and the lessons that you've learned, and that will ultimately help other people heal. So in my book, I'm very open and very raw about the traumas I've gone through and how I've overcome them and the strategies that I've used to be mentally healthier.
I like that you're doing that. Of course, a lot of people listening to this now have not had a chance to read it. We're going to have a link to it. We're also going to have a link to that YouTube, kind of testimony, if you will, of what you open yourself up to. Because that's something I would have never even thought of. How are you doing now? I mean, is it therapeutic? You write the book, it's therapeutic. You have to practice what you preach. Is that true?
Yeah, it was therapeutic. It was hard because, as I said, I'm talking about really emotional topics and traumatic things that have happened to me. So when I was going through it, as much as I've dealt with things in my life, to share those stories again and kind of walk through the emotions was difficult. But it was also, I knew that I was going to come out the other side healthier and better, because I have talked about it. Really, when you keep things bottled up, they explode, they get bigger than they have to be. And so by sharing, it really does help. I'm very, a lot of people have said, you're very harsh in your book. And it's not that I'm harsh. I'm just being real with people because I can. Because I'm not just a therapist who has gone through the motions, and I have the education, and I can share from an academic standpoint how, in theory, you should be feeling or you should be doing these things. I'm saying I have lived this. I have suffered abuse. I have gone through different traumatic experiences, and each one of the chapters in my book talk about that. And this is how I came through it. So sometimes, like, I talk about the victim mentality, mm-hmm. and how I'm sure you've met people who just lived that life as a victim,
I applaud you for that, because all of us have something, and you hit the nail on the head too. And I know, somebody who's a therapist, you're writing this about your life, which somebody's going to relate to because you're there, so you can even give people some good advice, because something similar that you went through, some of the traumatic stuff you went through. Do you think it's because when you were young, how young were you before you really started to feel this feeling of feeling rejected? And then you decided, I assume you were a victim too for a while. You played victim, and then that kind of transcended relationships and down the road.
Yeah, I lived in that mentality. So I was also, I had a very abusive father. And so I felt rejected from a very early age. As soon as I found out I was adopted, you just not naturally feel like you weren't wanted. Of course you were mm-hmm. rejected, even though your parents tell you you were wanted, you were a gift, you were, chosen, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, you still feel rejected. And then you are with a person who's an abuser. So did he not want me? He didn't. And he was not happy having kids. And he was, it was awful. And so you carry that with you throughout your life. You carry that. And I realized at one point that all of my choices, my actions, my interactions were based on me being a victim. I was abused, poor me. I had a hard life. And I realized that he's no longer in my life. And so if I continue to act in a certain way in that victimhood, then I'm giving him control. He's still victimizing me because of my behaviors today based on being that victim. So I had to really sit with myself and analyze what I was doing and what I could change in order to stop being that victim, because I'm not a victim, I'm a survivor. And so I had to put that mentality behind me. So I talk about victimhood, and sometimes people don't want to be told that they're acting like a victim. That's not a nice feeling. Mm-hmm. But I'm hoping that somebody will read it and say, well, she was also acting like a victim, so she gets it.
I like that. Joey, what do you, I mean, I never see you being that kind of person, but did you ever find yourself in that place at any time? You have two loving parents. I mean, I know her parents. They're very, obviously, I believe you are where you're at because of Bob and Mary. So, I mean,
yeah. I think everybody plays the victim at some point in their life. I mean, you get a speeding ticket and, you might.
I would have never thought of that, Joanne. Would you have thought of that, Laura?
I mean, might get a speeding ticket, and then
What chapter is that, Laura?
You go to court, and you're like, I'm a victim,
victims.
but then clearly you are not. Like,
Joanne, I love it. She would come up with that, but without being and being serious here too. But she's right. I mean, those are the kind of things that we typically say to people. Cut it out. You'll see people that I work with.
I think a lot of people play victim and blame a lot of their life situations on where they are. And I mean, and I say this because I read the first chapter of the book this morning when I got it.
Good.
Is that
good girl.
That's how that's how we kind of get in those situations that just kind of snowball, and we just play the victim, and getting out of that mindset is how we move forward.
And Laura, and I don't know if you mentioned in the book about your adopted mom. I don't hear you say much about her.
You mean my mom, like the woman who
raised you?
Yeah, my mom.
Not biological. Yeah.
My mom was an angel of all angels in my life. She was the reason why I probably am the way I am. She left my dad when I was 10, which was great. But yeah, my mom passed away too. And there was other things, like my mom had a kidney transplant and triple bypass surgery and breast cancer, and I had to help take care of her, and I was alone, and it was all of that kind of stuff that I had to get a job while I was in university to pay the mortgage. It was challenging, but she never, not once in her life, played the poor me card, and she could have played it a million times. So yeah, I do talk about her in my book, and I talk about the relationship that we had and the things that she went through and that we went through. My brother ultimately took his life because he couldn't handle the abuse at home anymore. And, that's hard as a mother who adopted a child. My brother was also adopted. And then have that happen, you feel like, she felt like a failure, like she failed him. So yeah, it's difficult.
You're talking all the way up to 10 years old before your mom. I applaud her, that she was enough strength to say, I'm getting the heck out of the situation. But it took 9 to 10 years. You don't blame her at all for that? Or do you think there was any point where mom should get the heck away from dad kind of thing?
No, I think she did the best that she could. And back then, this is why it's really important to talk about things like this, and that I was so open in my book. And I talk about mental health and about abuse, and it back then you couldn't talk about it because it was embarrassing, and she was embarrassed. So where would she go? She was a stay-at-home mom who had no income. So what is she supposed to do? I think it was great that she left when she did. It was too bad that she didn't leave earlier, because I think things would have turned out differently for my brother. But there's no point in holding grudges and being angry at somebody who you don't walk in their shoes, and you can't make the choices for them. So
have you ever, your adopted dad, your father, do you still refer to him as, would you still consider him father, or are you completely nothing? Would you love for him to have a copy of this book now? Do you think that would be something that would be redeeming?
He's deceased now.
Okay.
but I cut him out of my life when I was 22.
Okay.
And I left the country. I moved to Australia for a while, and I never ever saw him again.
Okay.
So I would not want him to even know. Yeah, I mean, yeah, maybe it would be good for him to read the book, but then also I don't want him to take any credit for who I've become today. And he's the type of man that would have taken credit.
Very interesting. As much as like there's a line we have to draw though sometimes. You know what you're saying as a therapist, you know, as much as we want to kind of move on and put the past back and, you know, we're not going to live that anymore, but sometimes we just don't rekindle something if it's that bad. I mean, the abuse can come sexually, physically, mentally, you know, whatever, you know, verbal. There's all different stages of abuse, and I just inferring that you encountered at least a few of those.
Yeah, and I talk about one of the chapters in my book is toxic family. I have toxic friends, toxic relationships, and toxic family members because it's really difficult to set boundaries with toxic family members. And I had to do it. And it's okay to cut people off if they are not healthy for you.
Yes.
It's fine. We are almost too afraid to cut people off, you know. So I share that experience with saying to my father, you're not my father. I'm not having anything else to do with you unless you can do this. And he never could do that. And so.
Well, good. Bravo to you. That's really good. But there's something you touched on, and Joanne, I know you can relate this to. There's nothing like experiencing different places, and definitely he gets no credit. You did this on yourself. You moved to Australia. You moved down under, and you go down there. You experience different places. Some of these locations that helped you out. I'm assuming you got away from toxic friends, get a new life. How did that help you? Did you find that to be therapeutic? I see this smile. Oh, I see that smile. Look at that. Yeah, see that's right. You can even pass as an Aussie. I can see that already. Look at that.
I love Australia. Yeah. I would move there in a heartbeat. It is like my favorite place to be. The funny thing is I moved to Australia because I met a man, and I got married way too young, but I needed an escape from my life. I was taking care of my mother. I was overwhelmed. My father was, you know, and I had to get a new life. And I married a person who turned out to be a gambler, lost all of our money. I had to make the decision to leave him and come back and face like embarrassment and all that. So that is also another chapter in my book, just that experience of.
I like that you're laughing though. Joanne, that's healthy, right?
Yeah,
that's
think so.
Very healthy. You're laughing because you're like, you're kind of having fun with it now. You know, we all do. We make these mistakes, but a lot of times we do it because we repeat offenders in a sense, because what we're comfortable with in life, and you talk about that in the book, how we just end up going back to what we're comfortable with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You tend to repeat the same thing in your life. And, you know, if you've had issues with family members, you probably have had issues with friendships and romantic relationships because of the experiences that you had growing up and the way that you feel like you can be treated by people or will allow people to treat you is because you've had these negative experiences, let's say. So yeah, I laugh at it because I can now. At the time, I certainly wasn't laughing, but it makes for good content in the book, let me tell you.
That's good. And tell us a few funny moments that you're talking about. I mean, you add the humor to it. I mean, these are some dark times of your life, but to overcome them, sometimes it is a little bit where you can, I got through this and I can laugh at it now. But give us a couple of those moments that somebody can laugh at some terrible things that happen in their life. We've have so many stories, and everything that happens to someone, the degree what it happens to that particular person may be horrific and the worst thing ever happened in their life. You may look at it and say, I can top that one, but we shouldn't look at it that way, right?
Yeah, no, I think that if you look at bad things that have happened in your life as just things and take the lessons from those things and take the emotion, the bad away from it, then it makes it a lot easier to deal with. When I first started my business, I got into a portion of my business with a friend of mine who ultimately ended up suing me for $500,000 because he felt like he was entitled to more than he actually was, and it was a
What
nightmare.
a great story.
Yeah, I want to hear that. We got to hear. That would tick me off. That would be more like I'm going to come.
Oh.
I would be ticked.
You have no idea.
Yeah.
He was making so much. We did an app together, and he was making so much money off of my app that we were splitting 50-50. I was paying his daycare, basically. My idea, my brand, my videos, my concept. He just designed the app, and he was my friend. So I said, let's do 50-50. And then he wanted more. Like, I wanted to do another project, and he felt that he was also entitled to that other project. And then when I didn't bring him into it, he sued me. And I just thought, so I'm going through the process. And when somebody sues you, you can't just say, no, actually, you know what? I don't want to be sued.
Yes.
You have to actually then go and get a lawyer that is very expensive, and you have to fight the process, and it's thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to even just fight it. And it was depressing at times. I wanted to give up my business. I wanted to throw in the towel. And I found this quote by Nietzsche, and he said, things in life that happen, just basically things in life that happen, what if you look at them as just things and not bad things? And maybe those things are the lessons that you're learning
Joanne?
from them. Exactly.
Yeah,
I know.
isn't that Joanne?
Joanne, this is totally how you probably live your life. But let's look at the lesson that this thing is teaching me, because maybe it's preventing you from making a more catastrophic decision later on. So if I didn't have this experience, maybe I would have we didn't have a contract, which was part of the issue. Never, ever get into business with anybody without a contract. I don't care if they're your best friend or not. Wow. Like, if I didn't have that experience, I would have gone into business with somebody else in the future, and then I would have lost my house or what have you. So instead of dwelling in the poor me, I'm getting sued, this is what's happening, I thought, this is not a bad situation. It's a situation that I'm in. And what am I going to learn from it? And I'm going to move on. I'm going to survive. I'm going to, move on to bigger and better things, which I have. And that's how I sort of live my life. So I think if people keep that in mind when things happen that feel bad, and believe me, bad things happen. I was abused. That was bad. But I learned how I don't want people to treat me. And I refuse to let anybody treat me that way. So take the lesson out of what that experience is teaching you.
That's bravo. That's really good. I love it. That's Joanne in a nutshell. It embodies this lady next to me. Joanne, they're just things. I like that. They're just, you look at them as just things. Sometimes it's easier said than done, but this doesn't happen overnight. So you have this epiphany. I mean, you get back from Australia, you're divorced, you had to go through that. There was, you felt there's some shame maybe involved in that. You get in here again, we're kind of creature habit. You come in, you get back with a friend of yours and pulls this crazy thing. Maybe he or she, I think you said he, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he needs a copy of your book. Tell him you should autograph it too. Tell him, thanks for everything.
Don't be the instigator.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just terrible. Now that's my cross of beer, right? Is that bad, Laura? I wouldn't do
it's just things, Bob.
Those are things.
Just
I know.
Things.
See, that wouldn't be operating in the space of Laura Berg. She would not want me to do that. Okay, so we shouldn't do that. So I got you. So I mean that does make sense. But Joanne does that too. But let's be real. I mean, we all have those moments. We're going to still kind of slide back a little bit. What's helping you now in life? I mean, you're preaching this. You have this book and you're laying your whole self out. I mean, your heart is on your sleeve. And you're letting everybody know about Laura Berg. Do you still have times that you feel like, oh my God, I can't do this? Are you moving forward? Have you engaged? I mean, are you involved with anybody? Are you just happily being by yourself and our cat over there and the squirrel? I mean, sometimes life is peaceful that way. But how do you feel? Are you looking forward to new things coming your way or what?
I've actually been married for 20 years.
Okay, great.
So I quickly realized that I didn't want a life that man, the first one, was offering me. And I didn't want to bring children into a life where there was an addiction, and addiction's hard, but he wasn't willing to change. So I quickly made that decision to leave. And sometimes people don't because they are embarrassed. And I thought, well, I'm just going to suck it up and do better for myself. And I met an amazing man who is fantastic, and we have 2 beautiful children. But yeah, to answer your question, I still have moments of, poor me. And the other thing I talk about in the book is the imposter syndrome. A lot of us face that. And I still go through that. I went back to school. I'm doing a master's in interdisciplinary studies, where I'm doing it on how creative writing can help adoptees overcome trauma. I wanted to write a thesis paper on this. So I went back to school, and I have to take a literature course, and I'm in the course, and it's all PhD students and then me. And I thought, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. My papers are going to be garbage. I'm not going to be. And I thought, I have to get it out of my head. But yeah, I still struggle with it all the time.
University of Toronto? Just guessing. I don't know.
No, York, but
York. Oh yeah. Well, I should have thought of York. Yeah, definitely. That's great. Where did Joanne? If you see this? We see athletes a lot, Laura, and I know a lot of times people do physical activity. We do things like that to try to change our, maybe our bodies, just make it an attempt to say I can complete something, whether it's a marathon or a triathlon or something. Say I completed something in life which I normally can't. There's all different types of things that people go through, those kind of obstacles. Do you see how much do you see of that? I'm rhetorically speaking. I know I've seen a few, but from your
like imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's pretty much everybody's mindset at the start line of a race is, am I good enough? Have I done enough work? I don't belong here. I'm way over my head. And then the gun goes off, and that's that.
Just like a wrestling match I was at yesterday too. Get your head up high, get your hips up. If you don't have your head in the game and you're not focused and you don't have that concentration, whether you're working on your PhD or you're working on a PhD with PhD students that are sitting all around you, or if you're at the start line, you got to get out of your head.
Right. I think that like one of the big coaching quotes that a lot of people do or use on race day is, you've done the work, now just enjoy the show.
But
I think business owners have imposter syndrome.
Yes.
I have imposter syndrome a lot. Anytime
I don't believe that. Do you?
Anytime I put out content, I'm like,
believe.
oh God, here we go. Somebody's gonna say you're wrong, but I'm just like, well, whatever.
And then you say, I don't care.
And I'll be like, I'll just delete you. So delete.
Perfect.
Perfect.
But she's treating these people like things now, right? So that's okay.
Well, no, that's probably. You asked me at the beginning of the show,
sure.
what my biggest, I don't know what you asked
obstacle
me.
Or just your obstacle,
and that would probably be. Imposter syndrome is something that I struggle a lot with. Whether whether that be towing a race line or putting out a post on social media in with the gym. Do I really know what I'm talking about? I have a lot of expensive pieces of paper that say I do, but there's always the trolls out there that are going to try to knock you down. And you're in control though. So, you just suck it up and put it out there.
I want to have a little bit of Joanne and me and Laura too. Because Laura's doing it.
Me too.
I know.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It's super hard. And sometimes I put things up and then I don't actually press go. 'Cause I'm like, oh man, somebody might say something, but really, why do I even care? I don't care.
But you do. But you have to.
That's probably one thing after. So I told Bob that I was 40. So in our first podcast, that's probably one of the most defining things after when I
got it out of her.
When I turned 39 and one day, then I was like, screw the world. This is it. This is what you got, and so you're just gonna have to deal with it.
That's a fantastic attitude. I wish I had more of that in me as well. And you're right. The older we get, the easier it is to be.
Oh, it's way easier. I think I'm going to be a really great 70-year-old. I'm going to be like one of those grandmas riding down the street that's like in my RV,
I want to be sitting on a porch with you when you're 70. That's a line in my hand and just listening to you talk with
flipping off the car, the truck drivers that go by, or like the little youngins that are. I guess we won't call them.
Your fist.
Yeah, we won't call them millennials. Like Betty White. She's going to be 100 years old next
Love
year.
her.
And she's like the godmother of all people who don't care about other people.
We got to be like Betty White.
Yeah.
We got to get to Betty White because she's living a long life. That must
Right.
be. She's going for the long haul. So that must be her approach. Stress is relieved from her body, and I think that makes a big
Yeah.
difference too. It's like, well, I get anxiety. It ain't good, and it just ain't good. That's for sure. Could it be that both of you are, because you have good Canadian higher education? I always say that because Canada's got great education, especially in the high
I
schools.
went to school in America.
Well, you did. You went to New York. I know it's true, but New
No.
York higher education.
I was in Michigan.
Close, Michigan, and didn't you go to New York too?
No.
Well, your parents lived in New York. I know some
Yeah, my
part.
mom's
yeah,
from New York.
Your mom's from New York. That's what it is. She's in New York. But I mean, but still close. I mean, but it's so not everybody has to have something as, I don't want to say as bad as you, Laura, but I mean, out of the three of us here, I saw abuse growing up. I saw drug abuse. Only once I saw abuse against my mother, my dad. It was one time. So I didn't see it repeated. So I never repeat. I would like to think I never repeated it because I never did. I treat women with respect. But it was tough. I was 9 years old. It threw a curveball in my life. And it took me, I never knew why I didn't like my birthdays. I talked about this in the Phil Scoggins podcast a while back. But it's like, when you go through those things and you have good people around you. I just so happen to have good people, strong women, I'll say it. My mom will listen to this and she likes getting credit. Mom, she was strong. Don't ever repeat that. Don't ever do what your dad, you're better than that. Be strong, treat women good. And I heard that constantly. My aunt, everybody, Bobby, you'd never be like this. And I do. I think I'm fiery. I have, I'm passionate. I wear my heart on my sleeve. Dylan will tell you here at the station. If something, I get bothered by something, I'm going to tell you, you're going to know about it. I'm going to tell you about it, and then we'll get over it, and we'll get back together again. But those influences help me. And I'm listening to you, Laura, and I don't feel like you did a lot of, it feels like you did a lot on your own. I mean, it feels like you don't have, like, Joanne's parents are she's got that typical, her parents are together, they're great, her
Pretty
father.
boring and stable life.
But, I hope they're not listening to this.
No, they're going to.
And they're, oh gosh.
Yeah,
They're
probably.
great people. They're great people.
They're great. They're great.
They're great people. But and her mom, she even got her mom to do a triathlon about maybe 6-7 years. I can't remember her first triathlon. She completed it and phenomenal. And I don't know how old your mom was back then. Probably
Not as old as she is now.
yeah, right, of course. Like, yeah, we don't want to find mom's age, but you know what I'm saying, Laura? Who was it before your husband now, or maybe it was your husband now? 20 years ago that was there to give you, because you searched for that. I recognize that. You go to Australia to run away to think you're going to do it, and by golly, and not that you didn't know, but you obviously didn't see it right away, but you get in with a gambler, and he's got another addiction or some kind of addictive personality. Abuse comes involved with money and lost money, and you're like, I cannot deal with this. You're strong enough to say, I'm out of here. Good for you. But who do you use around you, or do we need to have people around us to do it? Because you seem to did it yourself, it seems like to me.
It's definitely helpful to have people around you. My mom was a very strong supporter in my life, and she was my best friend. And, when I came back, I moved in with her, and, she was always there for me. Unfortunately, she died when I was 33. So it was difficult. It's hard now being a mom without a mom. I wish I had things that I could talk to her about when, my teenager is telling me how much she hates me.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
don't
know
worry,
that
I have the same thing. So
it's the worst. And I was the worst teenager. I was horrible to my mother, and luckily I got a chance to apologize to her before she died. But it would still be nice to have that support. Mm-hmm. I luckily met my husband before my mom died, and so I have him, and then I have some good friends that I would lean on, and it's hard to do it alone. I've had therapists throughout my life that I've had that have been good. I've had therapists that have been really bad. But it's important if you're going through things in your life to find help or support. It's very, very difficult to do it on your own.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I didn't mean to leave your mom, but your mom obviously was a very important piece of that pie. But now, later in life, too, I mean, now I know you got your husband. And just if I can give you a couple words about, children, and I know I'm older than you and Joanne here. I'm 56. I have a 36-year-old this coming April, and I have 2 grandkids that are girls. I have all women. I have 2 grandbaby girls. I'm going to see them Friday, and I got 2 girls at home, teenagers, both high school students, and I like to think of myself as a Clint Eastwood. Would I roll with that, Joanne, or not?
Oh boy.
Oh no, no, not that. I'm not that cool, and I'm not that old either. but what I'm saying is that these kids, Laura and Joanne too, and her daughter, she's going to grow up very soon, be a teenager. They just do this. My oldest daughter hung up the phone, blank bombed me, and get out of my life. You're never there when I needed you, and and this and that. She calls me now. I hope my ex-wife's not listening, which I don't care if she is. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I'm just terrible. No, but she says, no, I would never. She just says things to me that this is what I was always trying to tell you, Brittany. And it's great to hear that. It's just, and I'm not being gloating, or I don't want any ill will against my ex-wife. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that it's just gratifying to know that what I did when I stayed firm with her, it was tough love, hard as hell. It was terrible to try to do it. And there were moments that I'll tell you, I literally had my hand went through a wall on times. She was 1,000 miles away from me, but I still did. I was in Las Vegas, Nevada. Drove me crazy, and I was like, God, how can this kid do this? And my wife now, Teresa's kind of like Joanne, and that's why I think opposites always do attract. But she's very, Bob, you're letting this get. I'm like, you don't understand.
Teresa is a good woman.
Yeah, she is. She knows. And she even called during a podcast. I wrote, I'm in a podcast, and she gave me a thumbs up. So it's just kids will come around, I guess, and you know that because you did. I mean, you did yourself, and it's tough to beat you, but you still got to be that disciplinarian as much as you just can't be their friends, and and it's hard. But it works out at the end of the day. It really does. Was your mom kind of a disciplinarian still? And I'm assuming because some of your eruptions you had with her as a kid, or was it more lashing out because of what Dad did?
No, my mom was very fair. She was sort of really ahead of her time in parenting. When I was 16, I snuck out of the house, and I left my window open a crack so I could sneak back in. And I came back, and I go to open the window, and it's locked. And I
smart.
I look in, and my door's open, and I had locked my door. My door is open, and I thought, oh my goodness. So now I have to go ring the doorbell at like 2 a.m. or something ridiculous. So I go ring the doorbell. My mom opens the door, and she said, "Did you have fun?" And I said, "Yep." And she goes, "Okay, the cat went into labor," which is why she was coming to get me, because she wanted me to see the miracle of birth. And she went back to her room. And I went into her room, and I said, "Aren't you going to yell at me? Aren't you going to ground me?" And she looked me square in the eye, and she said, "Do you have a conscience?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Live with it."
Ooh,
and I thought,
profound.
Oh my goodness. That was the most brillianting parenting that I've ever seen happen. It was some magic, because I couldn't yell at her. I couldn't get mad, "Oh, she's so stupid, she did this, wah, wah, wah." She just said, right from wrong. What you did was wrong. Live with it. She said that without even saying it. And that was the type of parent she was.
Mama Confucius. Very good. I would say so. That's great. Dylan over here, our producer, that you struck a chord with him. Go, Dylan, put yourself on camera for Pete's sake. Come on. Let's do this here.
Oh, no. Okay.
Come on. He sounds like he's from Canada, doesn't he? When he said, "Oh, no."
I'm from Alaska, so
he's from Alaska. Close enough. Okay, go ahead.
Close enough.
Okay, go ahead. Just get yourself on
No,
camera.
I was just going to say, that reminds me a lot. I snuck out once, and my mom found out. She didn't lock the door, but she was just there as soon as I got home. Nothing crazy happened when I was gone, but so the next time that I ended up sneaking out, she called me, and then something, I forgot what happened. It was like something like minuscule now to me happened. And then she was like, "I just want you to know you're missing out on this." And I was like, my heart dropped, because I was like, oh my God. But then I was still out having fun with my friends. So I didn't really care that much, because I was an awful child. I'll admit it.
And he's 20 years old, so he's he's
I'm still a child, unfortunately.
He's still a child.
Well,
Youngin, yeah, would be nice. But it's funny. We all, so in other words, all generations, we could see how this affected us. In your Michigan days, Joanne, did you do the sneak out thing or not?
No, I didn't hit rock bottom until I Moved to Hawaii.
There you go. Oh, well, tell us about that. Tell us about the Hawaii.
I don't think that would be appropriate.
It wouldn't be appropriate. Wow, Joanne, I can't pick. See, now we're learning stuff, Laura.
This is why I want to
I graduated, bought a one-way
I know.
ticket.
Glass of wine now. Bring the wine out. Bring the bottle out. Let's talk.
Graduated college. I played college softball, so I took my NCAA contract very seriously, and then graduated college, bought a one-way ticket to Hawaii, and moved as far away as I could get without leaving the United States.
How can you do that?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I just learned it. I
That's
learned
it.
something every week with her. That
was it.
amazing. What? No, I want to know how Bob and Mary handle that, because I love what Laura's mom said.
Well, my
Do you
brother
have
was
a-
living in
Do you
England.
have
so
a conscience? I love that. I
Yeah.
love it. What happened to you?
Nothing. I mean, I just came home for Christmas and said I bought a one-way ticket to Hawaii, and
So
they
they're-
said, "Great." I mean, my brother was living in England, and
Yeah. Do you regret any of that?
absolutely not. No.
Okay.
No regrets.
Okay. No regrets. Okay. Okay.
Applied for a job, had a job waiting for me as soon as I got off the airplane.
Wow.
Yeah, that was it.
Just things, Joanne. Just things.
Lived in a hotel room for 4 years.
Gosh.
Yep.
Wow.
It's expensive.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah.
Oh no, I mean like
your job.
their Airbnb kind of thing.
Oh, gotcha.
But that was a long time ago.
Yeah, but you do it in a
They just
hotel.
rent it by the month.
Mm.
It was very common. So yeah.
So, Laura's like, so what, Laura, if somebody's going to sit here and read your book, we're going to hear a lot. We're going to hear about Laura Berg's life. The times that we do these things and all these hurdles that we have to jump and leap over them and try to overcome them, we look at things. What do you hope comes out of it for somebody who, at any level, and especially the worst kind of level, maybe somebody who's going through something that they maybe even feel suicidal or my heart goes on. I take that very seriously. We do here. We're in a military post, and suicide is no joke. I mean, it happens too often. It should not, but there's things we have to know. Is there something you would love, even if you touch one person, how's this book going to help them?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. I'm just hoping that it at least touches one person. If I make a difference in somebody's life, if they feel less alone. When I posted my video on YouTube of my adoption rejection story, I had a person from the UK who was in counterterrorism. He was this, tough police guy, and he went through the same thing I did. And he sent me an email and he said, I just want to thank you because I felt so alone and I felt like it was me and that I was broken. And he said, when I saw your video, this weight lifted off my shoulders because I realized I'm not broken. It's not me. And I thought, that's enough. If it touches nobody else, that was enough. So I hope that's what my book does for somebody.
That's a great story. It's a great story, especially somebody like that of that caliber to it takes a good man to admit, and it's okay. It's okay to admit that, and because we're told you got to be strong. You can't admit that you're weak or you have any issues that you're going through, but that's a wonderful story, great takeaway, and we'll watch that video, and everybody listening to this again, I'll point out it's right here at the bottom of this podcast. You can click on it and watch Laura's video here and get it up to about 1 million likes. How's that? Because those are good. Those are good things. Those are really good things. I mean, that's you have to have that. Is the rain still falling now outside your window? It looks like it's letting up.
It looks like
Yeah,
it stopped.
I can see that.
Because I have to pick up my son, so I walk to get him. So
That's
I'd
good.
rather
Oh, that's
not.
great. So, and then not giving away your location, but are you in the proper city of Toronto? There,
Yeah,
yeah.
right down
Well,
there.
I got to tell you, how's Sam the record man? Are they still there?
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
sorry, I just
Gone.
gone. Oh, that was such a staple. That was.
Yeah.
And
It's like super old school.
super. Want to hear another old school?
Yeah.
How about the Maple, the mall there, the 4-story tier mall that's right on Yonge Street? It's
The Galleria.
It's like the Galleria, but
The
they come
Eaton
before.
Center.
Or
Yeah,
the
Eaton
Eaton
Center.
Center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Been to the
Galleria
CN.
is in
Yeah.
London.
Of course,
Go
you go.
there.
Yeah, and CN Tower is not going anywhere. Of course, you know that. Hey, on a clear day, you can go up to the CN Tower. I know you've done this. Clear day. It's going to be a clear day, and you can look down. You can actually see the mist from Niagara Falls in Buffalo, New York. That's a true story. Crazy. Isn't that crazy to think you could see that? You could see the distance. It's true. True story. And if the weather's nice too, of course, Toronto will have the dome will be open. You can see the Jays play or whatever. hopefully win. So what, Joanne, Laura, no, seriously, and I think this is great. Here's something with me, and I told this to a friend, and I have a podcast guest next week. We're going to talk to Marsha Pledger. She's the first Black woman to become the I want to say the EP, but she's the editor of the Jacksonville, Florida paper, and she had to go through a lot of strifes and struggles as she went into it. And another friend of mine, Sharon Crystal, is a publicist too, like Lindsay Mack, a little bit like that. And she always laughs, Bob, I'm your publicist. You know, as her friend, she always gives me this great advice on how to promote myself, how to do this and that. And I did a lot, but I found myself, this is the crazy thing. Throughout my life, I find myself, now it could be the way I grew up, because my mom was more of an influence. I had a great stepdad who taught me all the guy stuff, and my grandfather was a huge influence. My dad wasn't around when I was growing up, Dad. I'm sorry, he knows the whole story. Not going backwards, but we repaired and moved forward in our lives, and I just talked to him on the way here about procedures having tomorrow in New York. But the point is that women around me seem to be the ones I gravitate. They come to me. I learn more. I mean, a lot of my rationale, reasoning, and everything are from women, strong women. And do you have any thoughts on that, either one of you? I mean, just wondering why do women come? Why would they always
just a
find
ladies'
myself?
man, Bob. You're just. I
don't mean it like that. No, it's not why. But I feel like I listen. I take more from women. I get you help me more. I seem to do that, and I feel like I get alpha dogged by guys that are like my age, my caliber. Dylan kind of knows what I'm talking about.
I do. Yeah, I grew up with a single mom, so
yeah. Is this? Could that be why Dylan and I are? I don't know. Do you have any thought? Not saying that's something you would know, but I mean, what's your thoughts knowing me just
it's
for
like
this
a whole
few
nother
minutes?
podcast.
Yeah, maybe it's a whole other podcast, Laura, or what? Another book?
Yeah, I was going to defer to Joanne because I'm sure she has a great response to that.
Yeah. What do you think?
I would imagine it has a lot to do with being the father of daughter and granddaughters, and
I mean, it's fair. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just I feel that I think even not getting scriptural here, but I think even biblically, there's a lot of strong women in the Bible. They weren't recognized for centuries in. They kind of they're there, but they're there like Rebecca, Deborah. I mean, there's prophetesses. Women are essential to those. They give you those things that you need. Maybe it's a little more nurturing, but then the common sense value and.
It's because men suck, Bob. That's why.
Is that why? Okay.
Yes.
Is that another? They're not saying anything.
You said it, Dylan. You said it.
Come on now, we got to stick together. Guys, still got to stick together a little bit. It's just, but I do appreciate that. And I think that could be what's interesting here. What attracted me. My wife was kind of the antithesis of that I was used to. Not that my mom's not a strong woman. My mom's a very strong woman. But she's not as independent because she's from that old school mentality that a guy's got to take care of her. And they kind of sort of control what she's going to do and this and that. But my mom's very strong though. On the opposite side, she's very, she's good. She gets stuff done. She's a hard worker. All those good things that I got. But I found that drifting to Teresa, my wife, and you meet Joanne or people that they are stronger. And that she was a military, 4 daughters. Dad was in Vietnam, deployed 3 times. Mom's hardcore. Her mother, her mom's like, no sensitivity. We're good. Kind of like, do you have a conscience? Kind of, And I think that makes a difference. And you see that there's a little bit of a traction to that where, okay, I got somebody who I can count on. It's black and white. I know where they stand. Not going to have this wishy-washy stuff in the middle. Is that something that you're not anymore? Would you say, were you ever that wishy-washy person when you felt like you were feeling sorry for yourself? Or do you feel like now you could find yourself, especially what you write, you're beyond that now? It's soft stuff in the middle.
No, I think I still face that. I still think because as much as I know and I can teach, I still have emotions, and it's the emotions that take over that make you feel that kind of wishy-washy. And then you have to stop and put the work in because it's work, right? In order to make changes. So I still do. I still have to make changes that way.
I appreciate your candor because it's true. I mean, it's just a healthy thing. You recognize it and we get back to it again and do what you need to do to thrive and kind of move on, thrive in life, which exactly. I like that. What came up? Why did you come up with that title of the book? But what made, it's a good title. I mean, it's crisp, clean. I mean, it makes sense. But what was it that resonated with you?
Well, it was just because I was going through the daily motions of life and just feeling like I was simply surviving in life. And I wanted to thrive. And so I really wanted a book that is like, here's my thriving life, like how you can do it if you put in the work.
And you have put in the work, years of work, and putting it in. What's the next book going to be, Laura? Do you have one yet? Are you writing one, or are you just kind of waiting for your theses, or trying to figure out what you're going to do?
Funnily enough, I am. I'm working on a novel. It's a crime mystery novel where the birth mother of the main character gets murdered.
Ooh. Oh my. Geez, Joanne, I think we...
It's pretty dark.
Well, let's bring in the therapist on that one, Laura. What's going on? I don't have anybody.
This is what led me to my thesis, where creative writing can help adoptees recover from trauma.
That's interesting. That's going to be a good novel. Thesis. We just went from that to this novel. Any of this inspired about your real life events by any chance, for chance?
I will go on record saying I do not want my birth mother to be murdered.
Okay, good. Okay. Although God rest her soul.
So I do have two full brothers, and one of my brothers, I had talked to him one time, but they're forbidden to be in a relationship with me. But he had said, I think the problem's my mom, not my dad. So if my mom ever dies, I'll introduce you to my dad. So I was talking to my daughter saying, I should write a book where the birth mother gets killed so that the adopted person can have a relationship with the family, because it's this evil mother who's in the way. So I thought it would be an interesting story to write.
Look at Joanne's face.
Okay. I feel like Disney might buy that one out.
You know what, Laura, these things on one of our podcasts where you get your podcast, that could be a great podcast,
2021
by the way. I know,
Cinderella.
Cinderella with Laura Berg.
Modern Cinderella.
Could it be that you're replacing mom, and I'm not being facetious here, with dad maybe in this novel? The inspiration of that, or is it like you're reversing?
I think
roles?
you're digging way too.
Am I digging too? I'm trying to be.
No, I'm talking about the people who gave birth to me.
The birth. Yeah. That's right.
Rejected me, not my teenage evil fathers.
Yes,
in the book as well. But
okay,
the woman who gave birth to me married the man who was the sperm donor. They married each other and had two boys. Gotcha. So I have two full brothers. So
that's the ticket. I got you.
That she's the problem is what I've been told.
Wow. That's pretty good.
Well, it's going to be part 2.
JoJo, we got part 2 here. This is going to be good. Oh, yeah. We do a thing. We actually will cut this segment here. I could see Dylan's eyes light up. That will be this will go on Facebook, that little bit of moment. But learn more about Laura's book, Thriving Life. But that'll be the little catcher. Would you agree?
Dear.
I have a few. We'll figure it out.
He'll figure it out. Okay. Well, we're gonna make it good.
Where I murder my mother.
How to murder your mother when you get.
Oh boy!
Yeah, I know this is terrible,
right.
terrible.
Okay. Fiction. We're talking
fiction. Yeah, that's right, folks. Get it right. It's fiction. It's novel material here. So, when you look at your birth parents, they see it. Would they? And I can go back to this again. Will they get a copy of this book? Do you think you can get it to them, or will they see it?
I doubt they'll get a copy, but I did, if you read the acknowledgments, sure. I did thank them for giving me life in the acknowledgments of the book.
That's what I want to say. Okay, that's good. I think that makes a lot of sense. Joanne.
Bob.
What do you got to say to Miss Laura Berg?
I think it's very interesting. I think we had a very interesting conversation.
I love it. And look at this. Looks like Tapestry, the album cover with the cat in the background. Except we just need a piano for you with Carole King, but you got Laura Berg instead. Look at the back of the cat. It's just fantastic. If that's not the perfect, tranquil, peaceful, what's a cat's name, for crying out loud? I should get his name. Cairo. Yeah, Cairo. Yeah, because usually cream tabbies are males, so I think Cairo's a male. Obviously, yeah.
They're all male, apparently.
Yeah, apparently that's bizarre, but they are. He's funny. Yeah. So typical. They're all this. It's so funny. Our tabby does that too. He's got to be in a window. He's got to be up high, and it's same thing all the time. Pretty neat. I'm chasing my tail too once in a while, like right now. I'm chasing my tail.
A lot.
But Laura, if you have one big statement you want to make, you did a great job. What else do we need to know about Laura Berg in this book to make sure that people grab it today? What do they need to do?
I think that this book is for people who didn't just experience like massive trauma like I did with adoption, rejection, and abuse and things like that. But if you're just feeling unhappy in your life and you're not sure how to make changes, if you're unhappy in your relationships, I talk a lot in my book about how to define your own happiness and what that looks like. And then, how to fix relationships that are broken and how to keep relationships that are good, because those of us who have had issues with broken relationships tend to sabotage good ones, and how to stop doing that. And then, I think it's just for anybody who feels stuck in life and unhappy.
That's good. I think that's perfect. Joanne, anything else you want to say, JoJo?
No,
That's good.
I got nothing.
Laura, we want you to stand by. Don't go away, because we're going to make sure we get all that information so everybody here on this podcast is going to see more about Laura Berg and how to get her book. It's Thriving Life. And again, Laura, how to live your best life no matter the cards you are dealt. Laura Berg, author. Fantastic. And stay tuned. She's going to have a novel coming up too. Fiction. This is the real deal, though. This is nonfiction, but her novel is coming out. We can't wait to see how that all comes out. Good luck to you. And everything with your education, finishing up on this and your theses and much more. Laura, you've been fantastic. Thanks for staying with us here. We did good here today. I mean, this is a good long podcast. You were fun and exciting. And again, you want to hear more about Laura, and every Wednesday, and see this live, and see Laura too. Beautiful young lady. She's wonderful, and she's got a great family. She could be seen right now at WRBL.com, the podcast play zone. That's our video part, and then everything else is all audio, of course, wherever you get your podcast, whether it's through Audible, whether it's through Apple or iHeart. We got there for you right now. And of course, on social media, you're going to see some of this, how it grabs you, through Facebook, B. Jeswald, WRBL, and also B. Jeswald Instagram, B. Jeswald Twitter, wherever you want to see it, you can get it. That's it. And we'll see you next week here on the Bob Jeswald Show, along with my colleague, co-host here with Joanne Kogel, who's chill all the time.
We'll see you guys next time.
That's right.